Keith Tordoff, you're a candidate for the Mayor of York and North Yorkshire, and you're partway through the campaign. We've got elections that are coming up. I think the vote is at the very start of May. How's your campaign going?
The campaign's going very well. I'm getting to speak to bus companies, youth groups, retail business, and people in the community. So it's going very, very well. I'm finding that people give me positive feedback because they recognise as an independent candidate doing it for the right reasons.
And the other candidates are all representing political parties, and you've taken a very conscious decision to go independent. You know, you were part of a party very briefly, and then you took the decision that you wanted to go independent. Why have you decided to stand as an independent?
I think it's important. This role should be somebody who is independent. It's a role which should be independent. And I only previously stood for Police Fire Crime Commissioner of North Yorkshire, nothing ever politically, because when I became police officer, it was drilled into us that we couldn't take or be part of a political party, so we were impartial and could deal with everybody in society equally. That stuck with me. And on that basis, I'm independent, but I'm able to listen to all the voices and take on all the reasoning behind it, and as a businessman, then hopefully lead and come to the right decision.
And a phrase that is often used around this new mayor role is that it gives a voice in London, or specifically in Westminster. Would an independent have such a strong voice as, say, a party? You know, would they be motivating other people in their party? Would you be a bit of a smaller voice?
As an independent, I think actually I've got a stronger voice, partly because I can deal with whichever party happens to be in power, and we're in a year of a general election, so whereas, say, the Conservative candidate may say that he will have the ear of government or government ministers, that could well change this year. So an independent is in a strong position to negotiate with it, whichever party is in power, and the important part of this role is it will be dealing with the Treasury, who again will be independent, impartial, whichever government's in power.
And while we're talking about money, I think this is maybe not talked about enough. Obviously the headline figures of how much, the budget's over 30 years, I think, isn't it? But part of the role is to actually gather more investment from more private investment, isn't it, into the county? What does that actually mean in reality?
It's a very good point, because most people don't realise that the mayor, although he'll have this budget over a 30-year period and annually about £18 million from central government, there needs to be a lot more money to come in to carry out this role, as it's being found in London, Manchester, West Yorkshire. So with a business background and the people who understand dealing in business, you need to be out there and getting people to invest, and a lot of this is going to be about the social conscience, the philanthropy from individuals and businesses to see the bigger picture, that it benefits everybody in society, including themselves, the families and the businesses. So I am the right man to negotiate, and I have already had a lot of conversations with people who are excited about the prospect of being involved.
And we're in Pateley Bridge now, and I know you had a lot of involvement with the Nidderdale Chamber of Trade, and I think you've used a phrase of, is it called a no broken window policy? Could you explain a bit what that means on a local level, and perhaps how that would equate more on a regional level?
Yeah, I mean, this stems back in society. I was a police officer for over 20 years with an exemplary service record, and it's the broken window syndrome. If you have a broken window, if you don't repair it and leave it for days or weeks, another window gets broken, then things get graffiti, then they get litter, and the whole thing starts to deteriorate. If you fix that, it's like any problem, fix it early and it doesn't develop the problem, and that works throughout society. So I have that approach to social matters, business matters, deal with the small problem, deal with the complaints early, and they don't escalate.
And just picking up on specific bits that you've talked about on your campaign, one area is the fire service is going through a restructuring, and there's change in service or a reduction in service. There's lots of terms being used, but I know you have concern about the changes that across the county for the fire service?
Yeah, I think I've got a little bit of an understanding of the fire service. I've got family members in the fire service, both in North Yorkshire and in West Yorkshire. And the fire service, well respected by the public, compared to, say, the police, where sometimes they have to deal with situations which they then get differing opinions on how they've dealt with it. But the fire service is generally well thought of. We always seem to every year have this thing that the precept for council tax is going to be increased for the police and fire services. Yet we've got North Yorkshire really announcing cuts, because we're talking about reduction in staff, which they're saying is through natural wastage, i.e. people retiring or who temporary staff who are leaving and they won't replace. But in real terms, they cuts and they affect potentially the safety of everybody in York and North Yorkshire. And to add to that, we then hear, even though council tax is getting increased on the precept, that we're purchasing 11-year-old fire appliances. For goodness sake, these old pumps, with the best will in the world, I know they may be well maintained, but there's a reason that other forces are getting rid of them. And what message does it send out to the actual people, the public, and people who are thinking about joining the service, where actually we're going to use second-hand equipment? Not good enough, and it wouldn't happen under my watch. And as Mayor of York and North Yorkshire, I become the Police and Fire Crime Commissioner. Although I would delegate that to somebody who is capable and working with them, we would have a lot of positive news rather than talking about second-hand fire appliances.
And talking about value for money and taxes, the Mayor can, if they choose to do so, put another tax on a household, isn't it, in the county, based on the the business rates, and that's been done in other areas. What's your approach with value for money, and particularly, I know you've spoken in the past about the need for two bases as well for the combined authority.
Yeah, I haven't, if I can make that clear, I haven't talked about two bases. The combined authority have said there will be two bases, something that I've made quite clear I would look at review if I was elected, because I don't see the necessity, and I think that that's going to cost more money. And I think also it doesn't send the right message to the public, and I don't think it's an efficient method for the public. Where is the Mayor? Is he based in Northallerton, or is he based in York? So I've said quite clearly I would be looking to have one base, and although it isn't convenient for myself from the point of view of travelling, I would most probably base it in York, York being the centre of North Yorkshire and really the centre of the country. And in relation to putting any precept on for the mayoral office, I think, to be fair, most of the candidates campaigning are saying they wouldn't do that, and I certainly wouldn't do it. There's no necessity, and the whole idea is, if the Mayor is being tasked with raising private funding for the whole project, the whole devolution, the office of the Mayor, then clearly you shouldn't be raising the taxes on this.
And moving on, a particularly large part of the role is the taking on the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, which is an office in itself at the moment. And I think that is a sort of system that sort of changed over the years. I think initially when it was announced, it was never intended to be a political role, and it became a political role. And I think we've had lots of criticism that the Crime Commissioner function that we have doesn't particularly represent the public. So we've had things like the HMI inspectors' reports that's been at times sort of critical of North Yorkshire Police. But then the Crime Commissioner has been very quickly there to defend the police rather than to challenge and actually get effective change. What would be your approach to some of the negative HMIC reports and how you would work between the public and the police force itself?
Yeah, the Police Fire Crime Commissioner role, when it was established in 2012, it was, as you've pointed out, supposed to be somebody from the community who would actually challenge the Chief Constable, allow them to get on with operational duties, but challenge them on behalf of the public. And it was, to put it bluntly, it was really hijacked by the political parties from 2012. So and certainly in North Yorkshire, it's always been somebody who's been elected who is a Conservative. And Conservatives are not going to challenge and rock the boat with the government of the day, who have also been Conservative. So that is not going to deliver the best for the services. And clearly the HMI has found failings ongoing for many, many years. And it's a sticking plaster approach every time to improve a certain part that he points out. North Yorkshire, if I am elected Mayor of York and North Yorkshire, and I will obviously appoint a deputy who becomes that police fire crime commissioner, they will be challenging the chief constable. They will be making sure the resources are available for the force. They will be also making sure that the public start to get confidence back, which I recognise they're losing. Crimes aren't being investigated. Crimes aren't being detected. We're all, as citizens, and should be, extremely worried, and the increase in drugs, violence, antisocial behaviour. I have a police background, that's historic, but it's relevant, at least I understand both sides. I also have family, as I've mentioned, in the fire service in West and North Yorkshire, so I have an understanding of that. I know that there's so many changes that can happen that will improve resources and confidence and what the public should get from the service without continuously just having the precept increased for the police and fire services. It's an endless cycle, but never improving the actual services. So I'm as disgruntled as anybody else as a ratepayer to say we need to get and improve things massively.
And do you also perhaps think that the police are in a very difficult position themselves, because they come under all sorts of pressure with resourcing and, as you should say, like expectation that they should be doing things. How is it possible to get this balance of sort of supporting the police, not feeling that they're being sort of criticised all the time, but also ultimately, you know, putting an officer in a better position to deliver his work and a better force, if you like, for the public? How can you kind of sort of square that one and get it working for everybody?
I've got every sympathy for the chief constable and police officers and staff, simply because they are, since 2012, the Police Fire Crime Commissioner's Office, they've always had to look over the shoulder to some degree to see that, am I doing something which could cause a political problem? They should be independent of politics so that they can get on operationally with the job. So I've got every sympathy with them. The public now, everybody's got a mobile phone with a camera on, so everything is filmed that the police do. They're in a little bit of a no-win situation. I have every sympathy. As an ex-firearms team leader in West Yorkshire Police, I can assure you that it wouldn't be a comfortable position now being a firearms officer and bear in mind that something can happen which might end up with the police officer being in court themselves, charged with a murder charge.
And we've seen that in London, haven't we, where a lot of firearm officers have actually stood down, I think, as wanting to be firearm officers.
Absolutely, and I understand it because they've got a family life and it isn't worth it if you've got that, but you need to be able to make split-second decisions. So with an understanding of that, the police definitely need the support, but half of that will be getting, or sorry, not even half, a large proportion will be getting the public to understand, getting the message across, getting the support of communities. And with that, there needs to be new initiatives to involve the community in every aspect of wherever it is in North Yorkshire, working as, in effect, volunteers. Everybody's a police officer. Everybody should be a police officer, because surely we don't want to see people breaking windows. We don't want to see people being attacked. We don't want to see people selling drugs. So by actually getting that involvement, I used to organise neighbourhood watch schemes at one point in my police career, and it's fantastic, the information, and that's going back historically when we didn't have the Ring doorbells, when we didn't have the CCTV. What we should be doing now is detecting so many things, but there's a breakdown, and this is where the public are disillusioned, and I understand that. The police need the support, the public needs to be challenging to say, these should be investigated. Why aren't we getting police officers when they're going to investigate a burglary, which they should do, going and knocking on doors? Have you got CCTV? Have you got Ring camera footage? We should be detecting so many more. I think the average is in North Yorkshire, we're detecting around 6% of crime or burglaries. Not good enough.
And just moving areas now, then talking about kind of housing is part of the portfolio, isn't it, of the mayor? Just to understand, in what way is that in a role to encourage more building of housing or business? Could you just explain a bit more about that side of the role?
Yeah, housing and transport comes under the mayoral role, and housing is a vital area because we need clearly more housing. I don't think anybody would argue with that. But what we need to do is we need to be more imaginative, more visionary in how we approach this. And the mayor has these powers to look at brownfield development sites, to look at compulsory purchase. So it's a very, very powerful role. And using that, we need to be, as I said, a little bit visionary. So we need to look at things, maybe not building the traditional brick or stone house, but modular building, well insulated with all the services from internet to every kind of facility where they put. But by doing this, we can quickly establish housing on sites which are convenient and transport's available to them, working with the transport companies, so that we can start housing a lot of the people who at the moment struggle to rent, to buy, and it's a huge area, so we need to be more visionary and more imaginative.
And I know, and not to talk about sort of specifics then, many people are coming to you as a potential mayor asking you to make a commitment to work that they're doing. Why do you think they're coming to the other mayors as well? Why are they approaching the mayors and asking them to sign up to a pledge, if you like, for their work?
I think people in so many areas are disillusioned, feel that not being listened to, not being responded to. They've tried writing into maybe the council and not had anything done about it. And again, I fully understand that, because when we have, the water which is starting to flood things, why aren't the drains being emptied as often as they used to be? Why have we got all these potholes when we've got technology now with machinery that should be able to go around and fill up to 200 potholes per day? We don't seem to be somehow giving people confidence that we're doing things, and that goes back to the police as well, that they're not investigating crimes, antisocial misbehaviour, etc. So I understand that, and this is where I would bring a totally different culture if I'm elected Mayor of York and North Yorkshire, and I believe that I can deliver a lot of these things within the first 12 to 18 months, so people start to see change, start to see that they've come to me and I've pledged to help and support them, and I've actually delivered for them. And this is the difference between me as an independent and a political appointment.
And talking about the process itself, I think maybe a lot of people don't realise, say if you take the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, how few of those that can vote actually do vote. So, and I think you could interpret that as a bit of a disillusionment in processes of voting. And I think the votes in, say, West Yorkshire, when they were electing their mayor, weren't particularly high, considering the population of the areas. What would you say to people that are kind of come up with that classic saying, well, there's no point, they all do what they want to do? Why should someone bother to go to the polling booth?
Firstly, I fully understand. When you look what's happening round about you, what's happening in the country, you would say, what is the point? This, I believe, is a unique opportunity for particularly York and North Yorkshire to actually go out there, vote for somebody who is independent, give that person a chance instead of what we've done for time immemorial, certainly going back, which is certainly North Yorkshire, tends to be conservative, if not possibly Labour, but they don't deliver because political appointments, they've tied to the political party lines. We need this change, and this could be the last grasp opportunity to get somebody and give, I'm hoping, me a chance to actually show it's not just talk, it's actually delivering. And that is the difference. And I've proved it in, maybe people class it as a smaller area, little old Pateley Bridge in Nidderdale. But we look at a high street, we look at what's been delivered there through leadership and through working with the community. So many improvements, so many things happened, recognised by the government, to the extent that I was asked to do an e-book for the Conservative government on how to revive a declining high street.
Keith Tordoff, thank you very much.
Thank you.